Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome each and every one of you to our weekly program entitled the Economic Forum, in which we invite our brother, Professor Abbas Mohammed from the United States of America, an economist. And today we want to talk about the Ghana's digital revolution, opportunities and challenges for economic development. This is an enlightening program on which we invite all politicians and those who are concerned about the economic of this country and in fact Africa at large. So we are appealing to you also that you should share this program to your brothers in Ghana and outside. Make sure that this program trends across the world, because it is an important program that is we are yet to commence with our Professor Abbas Mohammed from the United States of America. But as custom demands, as Muslims, whatever we do, we start in the name of God. And so as such, we pray to Allah that we go into the depth of this program, and we pray to Allah to guide us through. And then to you, all the listeners, I want us to listen to us with patience and understanding, and then judge all the points that you may like to interact with our Professor Mohammed Abbass. And in the course of the program, he's going to speak for the next 30 minutes or the next 45 minutes. And then we open the phone lines for 15 minutes for those who have any question to ask our brother. Inshallah, he's ready to answer all your grievances. And of course, if you don't want to come directly online, you can send in your messages on WhatsApp. Inshallah, we are going to read, and our brother is going to address your concern. So without much ado, my name is Sheikh RIDWAN Abdullah. I invite our brother, Professor Mohammed Abbass, to come straight to start the program, and we plead with you, our listeners, to give us your audience, and then we commence the program, inshallah. So my brother, Prof, if you are ready, start the program. The ball is in your court.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Once again, thank you for the opportunity, Olkia TV, as always. And we once again welcome our listeners to this all-important program, the Economic Forum. Tonight, we are examining Ghana's digital revolution on the background of the president's launching 1 million coders program. I'm looking at Ghana's digital revolution as a golden ticket to economic transformation, or are we setting ourselves up for disappointment? My name is Abbas Mohammed, and the reason why this excites me is not only am I qualified with economics degree, I'm also a technology management graduate, MSc in tech management from Columbia University. So I felt I have the right to contribute to this discussion, and that's why I'm looking at it from perspective as a business economist, because I'm coming from both worlds. So I'm gonna take you through certain scenarios that is existing in Africa, as I always do. I would like to compare us to what is happening around us, and I don't want us to go too far. I'm not going to give you examples of countries that are too far away. I'm going to concentrate on Africa and what I have found out. So I'm going to ask the question whether this is a promise or this is a disappointment in the horizon and why it matters. In 2010, Rwanda was still rebuilding from genocide. Today, it is Africa's leading digital economy, with a tech contributing about 8% to their GDP. Meanwhile, Ghana, with all our advantages, still struggles to convert tech potential into real growth. So, if you look at that background, you will say the 1 million coders program on paper is exactly what we need. But like everything else, Uh, is it tied to a bigger dream or a vision? That's a question we yet to answer. So the global digital economy right now as it stands is 11 trillion and is growing. But Ghana stands to gain if it does this very well. Ghana has a young tech savvy population of a median age of 21, rising mobile adoption of $1 trillion, a 1 trillion Ghana city in transaction last year, and striving startup scene, which is fourth in Africa for tech ventures. But here is the hard truth. Training coders without a plan is like teaching people to drive with no cars, or no roads, or no fuel. This problem, I think we've seen the movie play out before. Remember the ICT for all policy, the paperless ports, the digital address system? We went through all of this. To what end, I ask? Ghana, it looks like we love launching digital initiatives, but fails at sustaining them. And why? Infrastructure doesn't seem to support our dreams. All right. Currently, our internet cost is 3 times higher than Kenya's. Electricity, 40% of businesses face daily outages. As a result, a developer in Kumasi will pay more for unreliable internet than her counterpart in Lagos. The missing middle between the training and jobs is the second problem that we have. We don't seem to connect anything to the jobs. Ghana's quota program is not connected to any job initiative or companies in between. If you compare that to India, India's IT boom worked because they had these three companies that were in the middle: Tata, Infosys, and Wipro. These companies absorbed the talent. So if I ask the question, 1 million coders, who's going to absorb them? Are we building 1 million coders for them to work on a freelancing platforms? Or are we building with an industry that is going to complement this effort that we put in? Investment in 1 million coders. So Ghana, our biggest tech employers are for freelancing platforms. So we basically have what we call economic sharecropping, not sovereignty. And that's a problem. Another problem, if you want to dig deep down, I mentioned this last time when we spoke, is the lack of R&D. We only spend 0.3% of GDP on research. So what we basically doing is we importing apps, exporting raw data, and call it digital transformation. So there's a need for us to wake up and look at what Rwanda, Estonia, and Vietnam can tell us. Best practices aren't theoretical, they're proven. So let's look at Rwanda's Kigali Innovation City. 2 billion tech ecosystem, linking universities, startups, and manufacturers. So where is our manufacturers? What is the idea of the startups that are gonna be created out of this system? If you are building 1 million coders, of the 1 million coders, how many startups? Is it 100,000 startups that we're looking to get out of the 1 million coders? Do we have a funding ready for 1 million, 1,000, 100,000 startups? It has to go hand in hand. Otherwise, we're not going to reap the benefit. Only foreign companies are going to reap the benefits of the talent we added. It's just like how many graduates we have from university that don't have jobs. And now we all find ourselves outside the shores of Ghana. We building the same system again. Like I said, this movie, we've watched it before, where we build university graduates only for them to leave the shores of Ghana. So if we can look at the example in Kigali, the Innovation City program in Kigali, where 2 billion tech ecosystem was built, linking universities, startups, and manufacturers. As a result, 300% growth in tech exports in 5 years. Rwanda. Estonia did similar thing, where they call Estonia's digital nation. Mandatory coding in schools since 2012. And that's a sustainable approach. So rather than building 1 million quotas only, we can actually support that agenda by incorporating coding as a mandatory course in our JHS. That will become sustainable, which means all the industries will have this human capital that we add in to the youthful population. So by Estonia pursuing what they did, today 10% of their GDP is from tech, and they're home to Skype. If any one of you have taken a video call on Skype, all right, that is Estonia's digital vision that gave birth to Skype. Ghana, we have a choice. We can copy paste their homework and keep reinventing the wheel. Which one are we going to do? We can simply, I told you, the advantage of backwardness is the fact that somebody has done it. We can simply copy it and do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. China did it. Now they're the leading productivity in the world. They copy US and did better than US, and now US is fighting it. Technology is ubiquitous. Nobody can stop you from copying. So we cannot waste our time trying to do something that's is already done. So let's copy the right way. All right. So the path forward is that a digital economy that works for Ghana. This is what we must do. If I should suggest, we're gonna have a link from coders to industry. Link every coding bootcamp to real sectors, like 10,000 coders, equivalent to fintech. Let's link them to fintech, where Ghana is third largest hub, or 20,000 coders, for example, to agri-tech, digitalize cocoa, share, cashew, value chains. Can we have a strategy where these coders are being infused into these processes? And then we fix the basics. I can't say this enough. There is no way you can build on sand. You have to build on a rock. So let's fix the basics. Subsidized broadband for startups funded by tech companies, taxes that they pay, mandate the 24-hour economy that you said. Let's mandate 24/7 power instead of 24-hour economy. Why don't we 24-hour power supply for tech apps? And scrap digital Ghana slogans. Let's get away from slogans and be real for once. And then the Ghana Digital Innovation Pact, which is to say 500 million venture fund, all right, for private capital, and then give startups tax holidays as they start. So the 1 million coders program is a spark, but it sparks fade without fuel. So that's what it is. You can start it up, but if we don't have a sustainable approach, a pipeline where these coders are going next, it's only going to bring us back to square one.
That's right.
So we can keep launching these projects, applaud, then wonder why nothing changes. Or we can build an actual digital economy where non-coders code for Ghanaian problems, startups, scaling without fleeing to Dubai or abroad. Every city invested will yield job, not just jargons. The world will not wait for Ghana, but are we waiting for ourselves? That is where the discussion will begin. So I will pause it here and then we start digging into the questions because we always run out of time for questions. So I want to give a lot of the time to questions so we can start digging into how people are feeling and what they think about the topic.
I think, Prof, if you can speak for the next 10 minutes so that at least we can give like 30, 35 minutes for the questioning.
All right.
We still have a lot of time. If you can go another 10 minutes, it will be okay.
All
Then we
right.
can start in the.
Yeah. So the digital platform, like I said, has to be linked to something bigger. Because when I did a research on the Ghana Codes program, there is no idea of how many jobs do we want to translate that into. If the coders program is not linked to a job growth strategy, then we just all we doing is a coders, a jargon. Like what happened with the digital address system. To what end? What are we trying to get out of that? How many of those jobs can we say we want to create 200 startups from 1 million coders? Because the update on the coders is the moment it was launched, in 48 hours, 90,000 applications were received. So that tells you that in a month's time, we will have 1 million coders application for 1 million coders program. If it's processed within the next year or two, because coding doesn't take that long, within a year, we can have coders ready to go. But we're going to end up having them in these freelancing platforms. Yes, they can create jobs for themselves, but what we basically did was to fund education for people to work for different economies. All right. Like in my business is supported by people from all over the world. I have an Indian working on some part of our business. I have two Pakistani teams working, one on SEO, search engine optimization, the other one on the website. These are Pakistanis. And that's exactly what's going to happen to Ghana. They are taking their skills abroad, they're exporting the investment that we're going to make. Why are they engaging outside? Because there's no industry to support them. So we're making the mistakes that these economies are making, like Pakistan is doing. But you don't find the Chinese on a freelancing platform. They build in their economy locally. They rather work for an industry within China rather than going on freelancing. Freelancing, you serve in different economies. So what is the goal here? Are we building talent to serve different economy other than Ghana, or are we building talent to serve Ghana? It's just like having university graduates with no jobs. That's exactly what we add into skilled but no job. So where's the link? Where's the industries? Can we transform 1 million coders to 200 jobs? I'm not asking for too much. 80% should be a startup companies that we're gonna entrepreneurs that we're gonna start. And from there on, the trickling down effect will kick in, the multiply effect. Because when someone opens or when they start a company, a startup, they will hire someone. Now the chain is growing. The value chain is gonna add up. Income is gonna be created for families, all right, just because we have 200 startups created from 1 million coders. And then 800 can be used within if we have an education reform that incorporate coding into our system. From those 800, we could take another 400 to serve the education system that we have if we mandatorily have coding into our curriculum. And then the 1 million coding program then gets sustained, people get jobs, but we have to think about this cohesively. It has to be an holistic view of the problem we're trying to solve. Is it jobs that's-
Mm.
or is it coding? Just having coders is the goal, because then it becomes a slogan. If jobs is the objectives, economic growth is the objectives, then everything has to tie together. We have to establish the links, like I said. Without the links, then it's just jargons and jargons and jargons. That's what it seems we like to do. Fanfare about a policy. They're all good policies, don't get me wrong. But they're not tied to a bigger vision. How many jobs are we trying to create? How many startups? Okay. Are they linking to universities, manufacturers? How many industries are we looking to use these coders into? Do we have a tech zone, dedicated tech village, or Silicon Valley kind of approach where startups are given infrastructure, reliable internet 24/7? All right. So 24/7 has to be electricity first. You can have a 24/7 economy when you don't have electricity. So let's start the basics and stop jumping hoops.
Okay, Mr. Prof, I would like to ask my question. Last week, a brother asked a question, but it came late. So I
Okay.
promise you, I will throw the question to you for you to address. But let me just ask mine first because it's important. You mentioned China.
Mm-hmm.
In every serious nation, they look at their strengths
Mm-hmm.
and their weaknesses, and
Yes.
they capitalize on their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Some years gone by, you can see China and India were competing against each other.
Right.
Now, China went into infrastructure. So every football stadium that you see in the world, they are the ones who are building it. Okay, and India went into digitalization.
Mm-hmm.
So 90% of the Indians were digitally informed. They were, in terms of computerization, they are at the forefront. Every company in the United States of America, if it is about computer, Indians are there. So now, answer the question, Mr. Prof. Analyzing countries taking advantage of their strengths and then capitalize on them. It is on both sides, either in sports or in infrastructure. Looking at like Jamaica, for instance, Jamaica rely on athletics, so they use athletics to boost their economy. So if you look at if they goes to Olympic Games, they always win.
Mm-hmm.
So in fact, they use sports to develop their economy. In terms of they look at their strength is on athletics, so they capitalize on it. Looking at a country like Brazil, they capitalize on football. So they it is football that has boost their economy in Brazil. If you look at today, if you look at Burkina Faso is depending on agriculture and they have built a gold refinery. So now they are working on their strength. Countries like Mexico and Cuba, they also capitalize on boxing to improve their economy. Okay, so now my question is, Ghana, where do we stand? Do we have a priority that we can depend on and then use it to leverage to boost our economy in terms of infrastructure, in terms of sport? Do you think it is the agenda that we don't have? That is why we don't capitalize on our strengths like the other nations, for instance, like Cuba. Cuba, every year they support Ghana with doctors. So they are investing more in their health infrastructure. So that means even if they were under sanction, they still provide Ghana with doctors. So where do we stand as a nation? What are we going to? Where are we going to prioritize for us to also boost our economy like the country that I aforementioned?
All right. So I think you kind of answered towards the end where you say where's the agenda, and that's the problem from day one. I keep taking us back to a simple concept that we seems to be running away from. Nobody wants to say. I don't think as a nation, I don't know whether it's the fact that we're not ready to do the work because everything you said is true. If you look at Ghana, we have a lot more resources than some of these other nations. But what is lacking is the lack of, inclusive agenda to where we want the country to go to develop. If you can give me your 20 years vision, that will capture everything you've mentioned, leveraging your strengths, all right, rather than
Yeah,
our strengths should be in our agenda, discovering what we have as a resource to tap into. Our resources, gold, right? Cocoa still a very important resource. And now we even have oil and other resources that you guys have seen, share, cashew. So our approach with a good agenda will be multifaceted, which means several ways of leveraging these resources and making sure that we have all it takes to be successful. There's no reason why we should be dealing with the issues we're dealing with after 60, 80 years of independence. That's a disappointment to all the parties. I'm not eliminating any party because they've all been here. We failed as a nation. As people, we seem to don't have an idea of where we want the country to go. We just keep policies, we take and drop, but we don't seem to agree on where we want the country to go. If you have an agenda and you build a team to manage your agenda for the next 20 to 50 years, which is what I spoke about the last time. It's all about the agenda and having a team that cut across political parties. It's not the politics of the day that will develop the country. If we keep playing this party game, we're going to be here all day. That's why, countries that are getting fed up are running away from our style of democracy. But I don't want us to go that route where we have, the military coups and stuff like that. But even within the democracy that we have, we can make changes. We just have to be bold to make certain propositions, like the National Economic Management Commission, which is going to manage our agenda. They will build the agenda, infrastructure, all right, industrialization. All these agenda, 1 million codes program can be infused in those agenda because it's going to be linked to jobs, startups, manufacturing, universities. All of this can be linked together. But we need to have people that are thinking for us. Somebody's job should be to wake up and look at where we are and trying to figure out how can we be better. Not worried about election next 4 years, I'm going to get kicked out. You heard in the news what the chairman of NDC said, that they're getting distracted by people already thinking about the next election and who's going to represent NDC. What kind of growth are we going to expect from this? Our direction is disappointing, to say the least, because we don't seem to get it. We only worried about power rather than growth. You get the power, what do you do with it? Whose lives have you improved? How many? When we come together, we can improve each other's lives. Opportunities will be there for the youth. The jobs will be available. Get up, you apply for a job. You don't need anyone to call anyone. Can we build a system that works like that? And we can do it, yes. But we need to come together and figure it out. The Constitution needs to be looked at. We need to revise the Constitution in a way that we have a mandatory team that will exist across political changes to ensure that we're moving from point A to B. Whether it's roads we need to build, we're building them sustainably, cutting across all political parties. So you can look at the example and all you find is disappointment.
Yes.
We're building 1 million coders only for them to leave the country or go to Dubai and work. What are we doing? To what end are we doing this? And you'll read the news, job abroad. So what kind of economy are we thinking? Why do we want to build talent for them to work abroad when our system, our economy is not growing? Why don't we create the jobs within and then use the talent inside so we can multiply the advantage of people having income within the economy? And then this morning I read also about the disappointment by the energy minister, the fact that all the benefits of gold mining is going outside. These are issues we need to come and figure out.
That's right.
Can we be bold and cut this nonsense? 68 years, we're still mining gold with foreign expatriates. So are you telling me that University of Science and Technology cannot figure out how to mine gold after 68 years? What it takes, but we need to get up and work. But first, we have to come together as a country and understand that we have an issue bigger than any political party and stop this politics so we can come together and set a team that will manage affairs outside of that.
I'm happy you mentioned University of Science and Technology. Before I ask the question that was sent to me last week by a brother from Tamale, I still want to chip in this for you to address, Honorable Prof. Can we fit in this age of technological advancement? Let me repeat that. Where do we fit in this age of technological advancement if we have only two institutions that deal with technology in Ghana? One is private, that is IPMC in Accra. It belongs to the Indians. And the one that we have in Kumasi is the only one that I know, University of Science and Technology. So in a world of technological advancement where we deal with digitalization, we've only one institutions that deal with technology? How do we fit in the system that we are now in an age of technological advancement, that we don't have a lot of institutions that deal with technology? We have only one belonging to the government. The other one is private from India. So where do we stand in this age of technological advancement? That's the question I wanted to address. And before you go in answering the question, I want to appeal to our listeners. Please send in your messages. Our professor is there to deal with your questions. So if you want to get in touch too, please feel free and call this number 0240-528704. Let me repeat the number: 0240-528704. Or you can send in your messages on WhatsApp. We are going to read it and our brother is going to address. So please answer the question for me before you go to the next one.
Yeah, I would say this. It's not so much about how many institutions we have. We have a lot of universities as it is. We keep adding to the talent pool, right? So it's not the universities per se that will lead us to the next phase of growth. But what it is a vision. In it will come the strategic universities that are necessary, because there's not one single aspect of growth that we gonna run into that doesn't have any technology in it. Technology right now is ubiquitous. Everywhere you look at, whether it's mining, there's gonna be technology. So all these universities that we already currently have are building talent that is infused with technology. The question is, what goal do we have to leverage the talents that's coming out of it? Are we building all these universities to create graduates that are going to end up leaving the shores of Ghana? That's where I want us to start. I don't want us to go beyond ourselves and think about adding more talent, because we already have a talent that the system cannot absorb. So adding more universities is not the issue. The issue is, can we sustain what we have with a job? All right. So we add more university is going to lead to more graduates not having a job. But if we have the jobs leading, like the college I am right now, we have industry leading what programs we creating. So we don't need to add additional university. We just add programs that is industry led. So when we discuss with industry players and the industries that are within the region that we operate, they will guide
I think there
what
is
needs
some
to come up.
technical. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So it's so much to do with where the jobs are that will lead to the universities coming out.
Okay. Now let me ask you. This question was sent to me by a brother from Tamale. His name is Ibrahim. He's concerned about job creation, and I kind of agree with him, because to support what he asks, Prof, do we have to change our mindset as parents? Because most parents send their children to school, to the university level, to become a graduate with a mindset that they can get a job. When you assess from the early days of Rawlings regime, it is the problem is job creation. Rawlings finished his term, handed over to Kufuor. The problem remained the same: lack of job creation. Kufuor gave it to Mills. The problem remains as it is: job creation, unemployment graduate. Mills handed over to Mahama. It was still the same: job creation, lack of job opportunities for unemployment graduates. And then Mahama handed over to Nanado for 8 years. The problem remained the same. Nanado handed over to current regime of John Mahama, and we are still facing unemployment graduates every year, but lack of employment. So right now, the question that the brother is concerned, which I agree with him, is, suppose we are able to create jobs for ourselves, where do you think the government should come in to support? Because now the government is not going to IMF. Typical example is this as Apostle Kojosafu Kantinka, or is it Kantaka?
Kantanka.
Kantanka. Look at his innovations, but there was no government of old who has supported him financially up to today that I speak to you. So if you are able to create a job, where would you get the money? The government is not ready to support you in order to create any job for you to also employ somebody. So now where do you think the government should come in terms of job creation? It is easy for people to create job, but to sustain the job, money needs to come in. So now the government is also not going to the IMF. So where do we get the funding to support job creation?
And that's why it has to be a cohesive approach.
Mm.
It's not something that you just happens like say a switch that you're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna create a job by just trying to be an entrepreneur or startup. And that's why I asked the question: 1 million coders to what end? How many jobs are we trying to get out of it? Because the traditional way of thinking that you go to school, graduate, and get a job has failed us. We all knew that the system doesn't support that mentality. So that means if the system is not supporting graduate employment, then we have to use industries to drive the growth. All right. Either we fund the industries or have startup funding, whether it's grants or capital. As far as where the money is going to come for the government revenue sources, there's a lot of other ways and creative ways. And actually, we live in a time where revenue creation has to be a different mindset rather than the ones this generation has inherited. So that is a whole topic by itself. But what I can tell you is wherever the funding is, if we really want to solve the job problem, it's something that we need to look beyond programs that we have, like the Jargon program of 1 million coders. That's not going to do us any good unless we can tie it to a job. All right. So industry needs to be funded, and then startups needs to be funded. Entrepreneurship needs to be encouraged, and that would change the mindset that nobody, you don't go to school with the expectation of working for someone before you can say I'm employed, or you could create unemployment for yourself simply because there are programs all over the place. So that was the evolution of all these programs. You see the youth employment programs, that was what's there to be done. So I don't know the extent to which these youth employment agencies are present into our communities, because when you come to the US or the UK, when I was in UK, my first job was at the job center, local job center. So they've brought it to your locality where you can simply go, upload your resume, and then you get companies calling you to interview and eventually get a job. And that was what, actually was my wake up call when I went to London. I was like, wow, they have a system that is like this. Why can we have something like that? And then you come to US, we have workforce offices. We have all kinds of employment agencies around your neighborhood. So when we are building programs like that, it's not supposed to be a fanfare program. It's supposed to be a program that is within our localities that you can use. And these offices are also supposed to fund entrepreneurship. People that want to start something, can they consult and get funding? Can they be trained to make sure that they're successful? Can they be guided? Do they have counselors, business advisors? Are they all part of the ecosystem of employment agencies? So these are real stuff that we must work on. And that's how we solve the problem. So it's not so much about fanfare, launching of agencies, employment this, employment that. But all we're doing is we're building talent for them to feed other economies, not our own economies. So the job creation is not rocket science. We could do this ourselves, but we have to set up with people that know how these things work. That's my problem with, what we're doing right now. It's like we're throwing things on the wall with the hope that it will stick, but there's no serious agenda as to this is how we feel that this will lead to this and that will lead to that. So from graduate to a job creating income, income supporting real GDP growth and the economy growing further reduces unemployment rate. Right now, we're dealing with 12% unemployment rate. At what point do we think that we're going to solve the problem if we don't look at it, cohesively and holistically?
Mm. So, Prof, currently, which is more important between domestication and digitalization, as far as Ghana is concerned? Which among the two is much more important?
It's not it's like the chicken and egg, which one comes first?
Mm.
You need digitalization even in the process of domestication.
Okay.
So it's a skill that you need. Right now, you can't
Mm.
grow any business without
Mm.
understanding your digital marketing strategy,
Mm. Mm.
because
Mm.
that's where everybody is.
That's right.
So
I
even
agree
when
with
we domesticate, and i.e. agribusiness, we are trying to grow our own food and sustain ourselves. In the process, we need to understand a little bit of computer, because it will only serve us well when you understand that this method, by reading and understanding, will get me faster, or there's another method that has been deployed by another jurisdiction, that if I bring into my business, it will help me better. So digitalization is something that is a tool, it's not an end in itself. Domestication is to feed ourselves, if I understand that. So that is a better goal, and then digitalization is going to accelerate that.
So, Prof, this question really is important to me, and this is the best time for you to address it for me. You know, before the oil boom in Nigeria, they depended
Mm,
on agriculture,
mm,
particularly on granules in the north.
mm,
And currently, when you look at worldwide, particularly wherever there is oil, there is conflict too. You
mm,
understand? So
mhm.
currently, do you think the over reliance of of oil is really hitting hard on Africa? Because there was a time Nigeria was not too much dependent on their oil. They depended on agriculture, right? Right now, Ghana has discovered oil, and we are abandoning agriculture. So, do you think the over reliance of oil is weakening our economy?
It's a yes and no question, in the sense that yes, because it's making us take a lazy approach because it's a quick
Mm.
source of income. All right. And then no, because we did not even manage agriculture when we started, pursuing IMF loans and the conditions that they set up for us to actually walk away from agriculture being a source of sustenance. But what is lacking is the fact that we don't have, like I said, if you don't have a team in place that's looking at all of these things and try to guide the nation and allowing the politics of the day to dictate where we go, then oil is an easy way to go with it. Because how does the industry work when you allow these big corporations to come and explore the oil and take it out at a raw state, and then they pay all these politicians big money? That's easy win. Agriculture, how much can you sell agriculture for? So who's gonna invest his time in agriculture when the reward is so little? So these, because of the system that we have, and in the way we've allowed the system to stay with us, is the reason why we seem to be over reliant on the oil income, because it's easy money. Agriculture is a process. It takes longer for us to get the reward of a season. It takes, the least you can get is about 6 to 9 months. But oil is rather quickly and a lot more larger in revenue. So if we have a team that's going to look at this holistically, we can have a little bit of agriculture that's necessary to feed ourselves, so the food prices will be lower. We don't have too much inflation. That's how we control inflation in the first place. So we have an economy where everybody is able to eat. Then we have an oil revenue that is gonna even be better in terms of the job. We're talking about jobs, and we have oil industry we haven't even explored yet, because our oil is exploded into raw state when we can simply add value chain production to it? Oil refineries. If we expand on oil refineries, you know how many jobs we can add to the jobs that we needed to fill the gap of the 12%. We can eliminate unemployment just by looking at oil industry and ensuring that we can have refineries for our oil production. But these are things that is going to take away from the politics of the day because the reward is slowly going to disappear. So the question I ask is, are we ready to actually solve the problem or milk the problem and make some few people rich? And that's what you have to ask yourself. So when we talk to each other as citizens, especially the leaders that we have, let's talk to them with honesty and make sure that they understand that the problem is beyond them. You would enjoy whatever you're going to enjoy and you will leave. You would die whether you like it or not. After you, what happens? You leave us with the same problem and you had an opportunity to fix this. And that's where I want our mindset to go. That whatever the problem is, if we don't begin solving it by looking at it as all of us in it together, then we're never going to solve anything. Because as far as the foreign interest is concerned, they would like to milk the situation the way it is because it serves them well. We export oil to countries that have more oil than us. US has more oil than you can ever think. But why are they taking ours? Why do we let it? It's because we don't have a leadership that's looking at this. The politics, the politicians are not looking at this. They're looking at the benefits they're going to get today.
Yeah. So in a global economy, do you have a question?
There's a question.
Yeah, please read it for me before I come in.
There's a question from Ahmed Tijani. He says, what is Prof's advice to our youth in Zongo about the coding programs?
Simple advice is get involved. It's a free skill set. You have to jump on. Everybody should get as much as they can. Worst case scenario, you can freelance. Like I said, in my company, I have talent from everywhere. So why can't I get a Ghanaian talent? The problem we run into sourcing Ghanaian talent is the infrastructure, not having internet reliability. So I had to walk away because something that takes you 20 minutes with a Pakistani would take you about hours with a Ghanaian freelancer because he's not able to get online when you need him to get online and troubleshoot something. But when you have a Pakistani or an Indian, he's online 24/7. So when we talk about 24-hour economy, I want number one, 24-hour economy to be electricity and internet. That's an economy I want. So it's not so much about the slogan, it's so much about solution. So for Zongo, I would say jump on coding program. If it's free, jump on. If you have to pay a little bit, get the skill. You can find a way to make your own job situation better by freelancing because the country might not have an opportunity for you as it stands right now, unless we link the coding program with a job opportunities like companies that are going to absorb all these talents. So it's a good program, no doubt. So at individual level, it's excellent program. Go for it.
Mashallah. Prof, I want to ask this question. It's very, very important. You know, this is a global economy. So where do you think the world will stand without Africa? This world, the Western world cannot stand or cannot survive without the resources coming from African countries. Now, the world is strategized in such a way that Africa and the Middle East is supposed to be the suppliers of their raw materials to feed the industries in Europe and America. Now, considering the fact that if Africa should speak with one voice, then we can put value or good price on our products, our cocoa, our manganese, our iron, our timber, our bauxite. But now Africa is disintegrated, particularly the African Union, or let me limit it to ECOWAS. Now here we are. ECOWAS that should have supposed to speak with one voice is now fragmented. Mali, Burkina, Niger are threatening to get out of ECOWAS. So the vital resources, if you hear people, countries like the United States of America mentioning things like our vital interest, it means other people's resources. So what do we do? Where do we stand to benefit from our raw materials? Because without our raw materials, most of the industries in Europe and America will be shut down. So what do you think will be the solution?
The solution is to unite on a purpose. And that's why I question our style of democracy, because it has divided us. We can change it. We dictate our own democracy. We have our own constitution to support democracy. So why don't we go into number one? Do we even understand that we have to unite to solve the problem? Because that's where I think the mindset change needs to happen. That's why I can't walk away from the first step of changing our mindset. If we have a mindset that everything you said is a fact and is true, that we hold the resources of the world. All right, you combine us and Saudi have these and Middle East have these resources, then we must be calling the shot, not the West. If we agree on that, then that's a good step to start with. That means we have the potential. If we have the potential to call the shots, then we have to unite. The problem we have, history will tell you in Ghana, is the lack of unity that has brought us here. When Nkrumah started, what happened?
That's
People
right.
went behind him, connived with CIA, and kicked them out.
That's
So
right.
these are the things that we're dealing with. Can we come together first and understand that we have what it takes to evolve as people and be better than where we are? That's the challenge. Africans' problem is the lack of unity, on a purpose of growth. If we have that mindset that, hey, we have what it takes, let's come together and set up a team whose term is going to last any government, which is why the Burkina leader came into being, because he was tired of the status quo, just recycling the same thing. He needed sustainability. You can't do that with the constitution that they gave us, that they guided us to come up with. So we have to walk away from that constitution and build a whole better system that ensures long-term continuity of the projects that we're going to pursue today. So until then we are in circles. We're just going to keep running around and coming back. Our resources doesn't matter because they have us just where they need us. Give us the raw materials, we transform it, and we bring you back to you 300% more.
Prof,
And we
today
okay.
I want to use like 5 minutes for you to speak the Hausa language to benefit some of our people who doesn't understand the English language. But before then, you made mention of democracy. So I'm asking the type of democracy being practiced in the United States of America and the Western world. Do you think it will work in Africa? Because the type of democracy, like, let me give an example. America has been practicing this democracy for the past 200 years. And when you compare it to Africa, particularly Africa, the sub-Saharan Africa, we are the first in the sub-region to attain independence. So our democracy is no more than 70 years old. So which means we are just a baby coming up. So do you think we have to, practice our type of democracy that is mixed with our African personality, or should we practice the democracy exactly like it is in America? Will it work that way?
It wouldn't work that way. America, they change their democracy how many times? They're always refining things, right? So only the only people that don't change are the people that are not growing. If you want to grow, you have to change.
That's right.
We've experimented this democracy, and then this particular constitution that brought this democracy in 1992, 30 years. And what significant change have we done, especially around economic growth? That's where I have a problem. That we don't have a sustainable system of growth strategy for our economy, which would translate to jobs to the youth. What right now, what NDC is doing and Muhammad administration is doing is really great, but can you ensure continuity? What constitution supports that? Nobody is mandated by the NDC to continue 1 million coders program and ensure that it translates into job. Only NDC has that in their agenda. After NDC, done. One industry, one district, one factory. Who ensured that happened? Nobody. Only MPP did their thing and they walked away, and now we're not even talking about it. All of these are good programs, but to what end? Who's managing them? And that's why we have to go back to our constitution and fix certain part of it that allows economic growth continuity. So this is our constitution. We can do whatever we want to do with it. So let's come together as people and change where it needs to be changed. Because the only person who's not growing is the person that's not changing.
That's right. Thank you so much, our brother Professor Abbass Mohammed, for this enlightenment and brilliant submission. And those of you who have taken their time to listen to our program, the Economic Forum, we thank you too. There are a few things that I want us to talk about. It should be next week, inshallah, when we meet. We're going to talk about the 24-hour economy and the collapse, the bank that was collapsed, and the 24, that is the 24-hour economy that the government initiated, and then the Women's Bank. And you know, this man, Paco Sindu, his GN Bank has employed over 2,000 workers. Now there are 2,000 unemployed workers who should have been employed. These are things that we will deal with next week because of lack of time. We want to take this opportunity to allow our brother to benefit our Hausa-speaking people who doesn't understand the English language, for them to have a clue of exactly what we are doing. Ba tare da ɓata lokaci ba, muna gaishe da dukan waɗanda suka ba mu gudunmuwa suka saurare wannan program da muka yi na Economic Forum tare da ɗan uwanmu Mohammed Abbass daga ƙasar America. To dan bashi fage ya dan tattauna, wato ya tura ana kiran shi summarize, wato ya haɗa mana a cikin minti 3 haka ko kuma minti 5 akalla, saboda ƴan uwanmu da ba sa jin Hausa, amin ba sa jin yaren Turanci, su ma su samu idea wato me muka tattauna a nan. Duka dai batun dai ci gaban ƙasa ne, kuma shi ɗan uwanmu dama fagen shi ne, yasa za mu ba shi dama ya ɗan tattauna mana a cikin harshen Hausa me muka tattauna a takaice, saboda kuma ku ɗan ku samu amfanin abin da muka tattauna a Turanci. Amma insha Allah nan gaba za mu samu lokaci mai yawa, saboda idan mu yi magana Turanci mu samu koda minti 20 ne zuwa 30 kuma a faɗa a Hausa, saboda mun fahimci cewa mutanen mu da yawa suna jin yaren Hausan amma ba sa jin Turanci. Yasa ba za mu toshe muku haƙƙin ku ba. Idan an yi magana da Turanci shi a ɗan takaita da Hausa, lokaci ne insha Allah nan gaba za mu samu lokaci mai tsawo wanda idan mu yi bayani a Turanci kuma za mu yi a cikin Hausa, saboda kowa ya shigo wannan fagen. Wannan fage ne na wayar da mutane kai don su san abin da ƙasa ke ciki wajen tattalin arziki. Ke sa ɗan uwanmu Mohammed Abbass da Allah ɗan takaita muna, saboda iyayenmu da suke jin harshen Hausa su ma su samu ɗan benefit abinda muke ciki a nan na Walkiya TV. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum masu sauraren mu, muna muku barka da yau. Walkiya TV muna godiya da daman da aka bamu. A takaice yau abinda muka dauko shine zancen wato ilimi na kwamfutan da shugaba ya launch na jin last week kenan kan 1 million coders program da yake so ya kawo a kasan, shine matasa su samu karatu na sanin kwamfuta ko kuma coding, wato inda ake yin asaliyan programs ko software ababen da muke amfani da shi kan abin nan wayanmu da dama. To wayannan coding ke create wayannan ababen. To karatu zai kawo mana ko kuma ilimin zai kawo mana kusan kyauta za ba mu. To mun tattauna kan amfanin shi na da yawa. Amfanin shi da muka tattauna shi ne muka gano cewa gane ilimin yana da kyau, saboda na farko ko ba ka samu ma ka yi aiki da wani abin nan wani kamfani ba, za ka samu kai da kanka ka ci amfanin shi, da za ka iya daukan ayyuka kasashen waje. To wannan amfanin da kenan na kanka da kanka. So tambaya ya zo kan cewa wannan abu ne mai kyau ko dai ko kuwa, shi na ce abu ne mai kyau da kowa ya kamata ya sa kan shi, balle matasanmu na zango. In kana zaune baka da na yi, in wanga abu dama ya zo, to Allah ka shiga ciki saboda ka samu karatun da zai ma amfani. Don mu a kasancewa ni abin nan kamfani ne, muna da amfanin da muke ci kan wa'annan mutane wayansu kasashe ma daban-daban kamar Pakistan da India, wayanda ke min aiki wayansu wajen suke. Me yasa muke mu dauke su taimaka mana? Saboda suna da wa'annan karatun. So in kuma kun doki wa'annan karatun zai kawo maka amfani, ko da ma ba inda za sa ka cikin Ghana, za ka iya zama Ghana kana samun kwangila a Turai ko wani kasa irin makamancin haka. So abu ne mai kyau da na ce ya kamata mu ma mu ci amfanin shi saboda amfanin kanmu da kanmu. Amma kasan da kanshi mu kuma ya kamata mu gano cewa samun ilimin in dai ba za mu yi ne mu taimaka da economy mu ba, kasan mu da kanshi, to shi ya zama kamar mun sa kudi ne muka taimaka amma bai kawo mana amfani a cikin kasan ba. Kai dai individually ka samu amfani, amma kasan da kanshi wani amfani muke son mu samu kanshi, to shi muka tattauna muka kawo abin nan misalai dewa na kasashe dewa da suka yi irin wa'annan ababen da za mu yi da zai kawo mana amfani. So har yanzu dai muna cikin tattaunawa. Assalamu alaikum.
Masha Allah, muna godiya ga ɗan uwanmu Professor Abbass Mohammed daga ƙasar Amerika, wanda zai karantar da mu a wannan dandali da ake kira Economic Forum a nan Walkiya TV. Muna gode ma wa'anda suka samu lokaci kuma suka yi baibaye mu. Insha Allahu zuwa nan da sati mai zuwa, ranar Litinin mai zuwa, in Allah so ya yarda, za mu ci gaba daga inda muka tsaya. Kuma muna nan dai muna neman gudunmuwanku wajen taimaka mana da addu'a. Ubangiji Allah ya kare mana kasar mu, kuma wannan program da muke yi Ubangiji Allah ya sa ya kai mu gici. Wa'anda muke yi saboda su Allah ya sa su amfana, shi kuma wanda ya dauki lokacin shi ya zo ya karantar da mu, Allah ya saka mai da alkhairi. Yasa wa'anda ke neman su yi tambayoyi da ba su samu hali ba, har yanzu dai kofa bude take. Idan kana so ka turo da tambayoyinka, kana iya turowa kan WhatsApp. Insha Allah sati mai zuwa za mu karanta, saboda dan uwanmu Muhammad Abbass ya ci gaba da bada ansoshi. Dama saboda ku ne ya tawo ya bada wannan gudunmuwa, ubangi Allah ya saka mai da alkhairi. Kuma muna muku godiya mai yawan gaske da kuka samu lokaci kuka saurare mu. Muna fatan Allah ya da sabon sati za ku ba mu kunnuwan ku, saboda sabon abin nan ya ake kiran shi ma, sabon topic da za mu tattauna. Insha Allah in ma za mu je wani topic ne za mu bari ku sani. In wannan za mu ci gaba da shi na kashi na 3, za mu bari ku sani, saboda ku samu irin tambayoyin da za ku muna masu ma'ana. Ubangiji Allah ya taimake ku. Muna muku godiya kuma muna muku sallama kuma ta addinin musulunci. Ni ne dan uwanku Sheikh Ridwan Abdullah, nake cewa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.